Hopping back across the border after a terrific round in Canada's Most Sport Park, the Flying Huskies find themselves back in the States and at one of the country's most beloved circuits, Lime Rock Park. As our championship battle continues to heat up with only a few rounds remaining, what kind of action will this historic raceway throw their way? Well, we'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 9 of the Flying Husky Racing series, and you'll see it all here live on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm DJ Clark, and with me here in the booth is Reese Gardner. Behind the scenes is our director, Joe Peak, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Now, Lime Rock is used to seeing more GT-type cars around this circuit, but today we'll see the Formula 3s take to the track. To see what's in store, let's head over to our track guide.
Welcome to Lime Rock Park. Located in the northwest corner of Connecticut, this unassuming little track has garnered a surprisingly passionate following. Its unique aspects create a circuit not only full of character, but consistently challenging even to modern race cars. While it has 4 different possible layouts, on the classic version, only 7 corners are split along a 1.5-mile track with just a single one of them turning left. Though simple in appearance, most drivers will tell you that trying to be fast here is anything but. The run down the front stretch into Big Bend offers pretty much the only viable passing spot, but it's a double apex right-hander which lures drivers into taking it too fast. The uphill is also scary quick considering its lack of runoff and can sometimes cause cars to get airborne over its crest. Then, on the opposite end, the downhill sends cars diving into a quick sweeper, which requires a good exit speed in order to defend or attack back into the first corner. Modern racing mostly uses the more recently built chicanes, especially at the uphill. But one of the most unusual facts about this track is that the races are never held on Sunday. Due to a legal agreement with a nearby church, events must take place on Fridays and Saturdays. The confines around this place are tight, the passing opportunities are few, and mistakes are usually punished with race-ending damage. With most other road courses now being built with upwards of 3 and 4 miles in length, this track stands out. But in an age of multi-million-dollar facilities and flashy buildings, this quaint small circuit manages to keep fans coming back with its intimate and grassroots setting.
Well, Reese, we talked about it last week, how there are some similarities between Mosport and Lime Rock. So what can we expect around this 9-turn layout?
Hi, DJ. This is just a brilliant circuit, isn't it? It's been around since 1957. It's only 1.5 miles in length, so it's a fair sight shorter than Mosport last round, but still, there's plenty of attributes that it shares with Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, like those beautiful flowing turns, particularly in the opening sector. It's all about setting up your car for the entry to the following turn, so you're going to be seeing the drivers really strutting their stuff out there, trying to maximize front grip as much as possible with what they can do with that fixed setup here tonight. But that chicane up there at the top of the screen that you see, it's going to be a massive choke point. They're running the Grand Prix layout, not the classic layout. So another braking zone, but there's very tough curbs at that chicane that will send these cars a cropper.
They certainly will, and they'll have to watch out for it. But before we get to watching those cars take on this track, we want to thank our sponsors for tonight. First off is Norsled. Norsled is a nonprofit animal welfare organization dedicated to rescuing, rehabilitating, and finding homes for unwanted, abandoned, and abused husky dogs. Today, every Flying Husky Racing track day or car event benefits Norsled, with a portion of the proceeds being donated to them. Even if you can't adopt, you can still help ensure care for these amazing animals through your support. Save a Husky. For more information, contact Todd Curtis through email at todd@flyinghusky.racing. Today's event is also brought to you by Flying Husky Racing. Flying Husky Racing is a car club based in the Pacific Northwest that delivers premium track days and car events for automotive enthusiasts. FHR is dedicated to safety, development, and building community among members and participants. Find out more on the web at flyinghusky.racing. Flying Husky Racing. Track days are the best days. Well, You heard us mention it. We're getting near the end of the championship here, so let's bring up that championship standings, and you can see it is a razor's edge up at the top. Andrew Hardman only 1 point ahead of Michael Broomhead here with 2 rounds left to go. Behind them, Nicholas Colander a fair ways back in 27th. He's really kind of standing out there in no man's land, but a decent battle shaping up between Horvath and Hans Solnave for 4th place. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But Reese, what can you tell us about today's race details?
Today's race details are the same story as usual. Fixed setup, 25-minute race. The drivers have a fast repair in the bag if they end up having a crash out there and have to take a tour back to the pits. So we should see all of our drivers finish today, hopefully. With 25 minutes and how short this track is, it's about 46 seconds in length in these Formula 3 cars. So we're going to be getting a lot of laps in today here.
Yeah, we certainly are, and that means a lot of room for error. As you said, they're going to be going past that tricky chicane multiple times over the course of this race. As we watch right now, your provisional pole sitter, Nick Horvath, he has got a very close margin to Michael Broomhead, only about 25 thousandths of a second right now. There's Broomhead making his way down through the diving turn, one of the more scenic sections on this circuit.
Yeah, indeed. I was surprised to see Horvath up the top there, but he's not going to be up the top anymore. Have a look at that lap from Michael Broomhead into the 45s for the first time tonight, but taking nothing away from Nick Horvath, he is looking very quick tonight. He topped the timesheets in practice and should be on for a pretty good round here. What about Tyler Gore? Can he improve? Not quite on this occasion, but still 6.5 minutes left, which at Lime Rock is plenty of time to get a lap on the board.
It is indeed, and here is the man of the hour, the man leading the championship by that single point, Andrew Hardman, as we ride on board with him as he comes under the Haggerty Bridge through that diving turn. So tricky to keep everything wound up there. We've seen a couple of guys try to go too wide. Horvath is going to improve by about Hardman rather is going to improve by about 1/10 of a second. That will not net him into second place, but it will draw him closer to Nick Horvath in front.
Yeah, well, indeed. They're only separated now by basically 1/100th of a second at this point. Hardman on another lap and Horvath also on another hot lap as well, but I just saw Horvath slightly mess up he's definitely messed that up, the west bend there, but maybe a little too far onto the curbs out on the exit of the chicane as well, so that's harmed his pace a bit. He's still going to set a 46 on that lap. Not going to be an improvement that time around, though. What can Andrew Hardman do? All he needs is 1/100th of a second, and he was so close to getting it there, but maybe a tiny bit of aero disturbance from Calvin Lee ahead.
Yeah, I like the mindset there coming down off of that final corner, maybe getting a little bit of a pull from that 11 machine in front as we see James Doherty locking up the brakes a little bit, going up through the uphill. I think that's a sight we're going to see quite a bit tonight. Doherty currently back in 6th place right now, coming down the diving turn. Let's see if the Floridian has anything here to be able to challenge. Looked like a little bit of a hard turn off of that final curb, and indeed about 5/10 off of his best time of 46.9.
Doherty's not going to be too happy with that one, but again, still plenty of time to get a few laps in, at least 3 laps if you consider the out lap in that as well. Nick Horvath on another attempt at a hot lap now. Britannia teammates 1 and 2 at the very least, and it's looking pretty good for the Britannia Racing outfit. Horvath just so tricky through that chicane. You've got to thread the needle, those red anti-cut curbs on the inside of the regular curbs. They absolutely play havoc with the suspension of these Formula 3 cars, but the diving turn is completely flat out in these things. It's really just a case of nailing your line, and that's a good improvement there from Nick Horvath, 46.019. So just a little bit of an inch more over Andrew Hardman, a little bit more work that our championship leader will have to do.
Yeah, and getting a little feisty there with James Doherty in front of them as they come through the S's. Now, that's an area that we have seen some overtaking done. If you make a good dive down into Big Bend, you can see a little bit of a fight back through there. Horvath taking, let's call it an optional line there through the straight center of the chicane.
yeah, slightly optional. Will net you an off track, maybe a slowdown penalty as well. Andrew Hardman now up into second, it seems. He has succeeded in overcoming Nick Horvath, setting a 45.9 on his previous lap. Let's see if he can make any improvements this time around. He'll need 2/10 in order to nab pole from Michael Broomhead. Doesn't happen for him this time around.
No, not able to get it quite there. Still trying to pull a little bit of the draft from Calvin Lee in front of him, but working it well around here as of now. You can see that head buffeting around a little bit, taking a little bit of the curb on the exit of the S's. Let's keep our eyes here, see how both of these drivers handle that uphill. I think that may have been a little bit of a checkup from a Hardman. Lee a little bit slower on the brakes.
Yeah, just a little bit, but Hardman's going to get a nice draft there. And looks like maybe an improvement there from Nick Horvath for sure. Look at that. He's into the 45s now as well, taking second place from Andrew Hardman once again. So looking like an incredibly close battle for the top three positions here. Hardman setting a 45.908. He can't get close enough.
Not able to do it. I've got to think if I'm Hardman backing off, and I think that's exactly what he's doing, maybe trying to pull out of that dirty air of Calvin Lee, who we follow right now, currently in 6th place as he works his way around. Let's see how he handles coming up that chicane. Misses it there.
Yeah, I think he just locked up on the entry, maybe got a bit offline and thought, nah, I'm abandoning this one. Nick Horvath setting another 46.2 there. No improvement, but I think he'll be well happy with how things have gone for him in this session so far. He's showing that he has great pace here versus our championship protagonists Broomhead and Hardman. Hans Salnave, whom Horvath is just ahead of in the standings, down there in 10th place at the moment, and taking it nice and easy through the chicane. Certainly on your first few times through there, you do want to take it easy and just avoid straight lining the curbs as much as you can. You've really got to get a feel for how fast you need to go into there and how much you need to input into the steering in order to straight line it as good as possible. It's not going to be an improvement for Hans this time around, but at the very least, he's out there completing those laps and getting himself on the grid with a nice time.
He is indeed, and here comes Calvin Lee. We saw him miss that chicane, so I think he's going to be trying to get another flyer in here. Let's see what the Northwest driver has in store. Is going to cross over the line marginally faster by about the tune of 0.06 of a second. He's not going to move up from that 6th place, but he will improve. Here is Hardman starting a flying lap. This will more than likely be his last time out. He comes now through Big Bend. Let's see how he handles the chicane. Can your running pole? He really just locked up that right front tire there, putting a lot of load on it. I do not think this is going to be a fast lap for Hardman.
No, I don't think so either. He was compromised there on the exit. You want to get on the throttle as soon as possible after the first apex of the chicane, and he carried a bit too much speed in, so that delayed his throttle application. It's going to be a 46.2 on Andrew Hardman's final attempt there. Calvin Lee also made a mistake at the chicane. He'll do a 45.7. Seems to me that most of our drivers are done as Gene Hawkes fails to improve on that occasion.
And I think you're right. Most of them not able to improve on that final lap out there. So let's go ahead and run over to your grid here for today's race. As we've seen many, many times, Michael Broomhead starting on pole. Outside of him is going to be Nick Horvath, followed by Andrew Hardman with Tyler Gore to his outside. And rounding out the first half of the field, it's going to be Nicholas Colander. Reese?
Calvin Lee's going to line up alongside Mr. Colander. We've had the pleasure of talking to quite a few times here in the GSRC comms box. James Doherty and Phil Horwitz are going to share row 4, with Gene Hawkes and Hans Salnave bringing up the rear of the field on row 5. Now, Very good turnout for the last couple of rounds here. We got a bumper grid at Mosport, and we got basically the best race of the season out of that. So I'm feeling optimistic here for Lime Rock. It's going to be a good one here. Very tight, cramped spaces around this circuit, but a very open run into turn one, which means there's probably going to be a few drivers attempting a sling around the outside into Big Bend.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see that as well. Waiting here for your pole sitter to take his spot on the grid, Michael Broomhead. That is the last car to take the spot. As soon as he gets in there, we will be ready to go here at Lime Rock. 25 minutes for the Flying Huskies. There is Mr. Michael Broomhead, and we are ready to get going. Here come the lights, and waiting for the green flag to fly, holding a long moment there, and there they are. It's a good start there from Broomhead, but an even better one there from Andrew Hardman behind. He's going to start looking for a way to get by, but he's already working on Nick Horvath as they go into the first corner. Horvath and Hardman side by side as they work their way into the S's.
And that is Hardman just ahead. But no, there's contact between second and third. Hardman just avoiding going off the circuit. That's created a concertina back through the field as there's a bit of a crash in the background. Phil Horwitz and Hans Salnave going around there through the S's. So that's Michael Broomhead now into the lead with Horvath in second and Tyler Gore now up into third. Just missing the chicane was Calvin Lee. A lot of drivers having a tough time here as Gene Hawkes having another error.
Yeah, lots of errors, and the way I think that Hardman is steering that car, he may have picked up some suspension damage, so he may have to dive into the pits. But out front, Broomhead able to withstand well. Tyler Gore trying to chase him down with Calvin Lee in third as of right now. And indeed, your championship leader, Andrew Hardman, is going to have to hop down pit lane for a fast repair, suspension damage to that number 11 machine.
It's looking like the same for Nick Horvath as well. He clobbered the curb in the chicane, I think. And oh no, Nick Horvath has missed pit entry. He's having to reverse to get back in there. Oh my goodness, the drivers that started up the front are not having a great time here today, as I think that was Hardman just making his way out there in the bottom of the frame. Finally, Nick Horvath manages to get into the pits carrying the cone with him like he did at the West Bend chicane for a few meters. So, man, it's going to be some very tough work there for our second and third on the grid. But back to the racing action. Calvin Lee now holding off against Nicholas Colander.
Yeah, holding off well. Colander on a definite charge here, trying to get up. A little bit of a run wide there for Calvin Lee. You normally don't see drivers taking the full extent of the track on the exit of the Big Bend, choosing better to get a line through the S's. Here comes Colander trying to apply some pressure as they go up to the chicane. You can't go too wide through there. Oh! Slide from Nicholas Colander, but he saves it.
Oh, did lose quite a bit of momentum there versus Calvin Lee, though, so he's going to have to wait a few more laps now to try and get back by him. And those guys were showing as Broomhead sets the fastest lap. One of the big things about racing here at Lime Rock, particularly in the opening sector, you don't want to go into the right-hander of the S's too tight, otherwise that will compromise your exit. Colander got a much better run there by just late apexing it and nearly got by Calvin Lee there, so look out for moves like that if there are drivers close later on. But riding on board, you see that slightly wider line being taken. Riding on board with, I believe that's Doherty on Colander, we're seeing down through the chicane. They're all just tiptoeing through as you'd expect.
Yeah, as I said, you really can't get too wide through there. You can barely get one wide through there as we continue to ride on board here. That mistake going into the chicane from Colander costing him a little bit of time. Up front, though, Michael Broomhead just laying down fastest lap after fastest lap there. He has pulled out about a 2.7 second advantage over Tyler Gore behind him.
Yeah, fantastic pace from Broomhead, and his last couple of rounds haven't exactly gone to plan, losing the championship lead to Andrew Hardman, but looks like Broomhead has gotten his mojo back here at Lime Rock. Certainly he's been helped by the lap 1 incidents for Hardman and Colander, but Michael Broomhead very comfortable out in front when he is there, so I'm expecting him to hold on to that position for the next 21 minutes.
unless anything happens. We've got to remember that because the lap is so short here, we are more than likely going to be encountering some pretty heavy lap traffic around here, so we'll have to see how that plays out for our leaders as we watch Tyler Gore making his way now through the S's. The Britannia driver still holding about 2.7 seconds behind our leader.
And actually setting a time 2/10 quicker than Broomhead on that occasion. So this lead battle might be alive as it looks like there's a move. Andrew Hardman making his way back through the field, passing Hans Salnave into turn 1. Hans lifts off early and lets him go. What a beautiful sweeping turn Big Bend is. It really takes quite a bit of mastery of your car's handling to get around the first sector of this track cleanly. But as you see Hardman streaking away, he is on a mission to try and get as many positions back as he can. Broomhead, though, 46.3 on the fastest lap. That's pretty big in race conditions.
Yeah, it certainly is. With a full tank of fuel, Broomhead just doing exactly what he needs to do here. For Hardman, he has just got to put a tourniquet on the bleeding and hope that he is able to come away with a decent amount of points as we go into the updated final round, which will be Watkins Glen next week. That's where it's all going to come down to between these two championship leaders. As they walk away right now, if they were to race or to finish right now, it will be Broomhead in the lead. But it is not a gap that is unassailable by Andrew Hardman.
No, certainly not. With the pace that the likes of Broomhead, Gore, and Hardman have over the majority of the field, I would expect Hardman to at least make up a couple more positions before the race end. But you can see those gaps as, oh, that's a bit of an interesting re-entry there from Hans Salnave. Michael Broomhead, fortunately, not going into his path. That's something that you've got to be careful about here at Lime Rock. There's no tarmac runoffs here. So, there we go. Salnave just letting them go once again into the chicane. Yeah, if you get off track in the first sector, there's basically no saving it. You've got to be very careful on the grass.
Yeah, you very much do. It's very similar to coming around Clayton like we saw last week out at Mosport. You dip a tire into the grass and that car's momentum is just going to carry you on forward for the rest of eternity, sadly. Gore, however, dives his way back into Big Bend. He did lose about a second to Broomhead in front of him. Oh, that's Gore going a little bit off there on the exit of Big Bend, heading into the S's. He's able to recover and keep things under control, but that driver's going to be sweating a little bit behind the visor of the number 9.
Yeah, indeed. I think he'll be sweating a little bit more down at the chicane with how tricky that is. We take a look at Nicholas Colander once again, down to P4, chasing down Calvin Lee, and we saw these guys would almost come together on track were it not for a little mistake from Nicholas Colander. But have a look at that time comparison there. Calvin Lee, he's been able to gain a bit on Nicholas Colander over the last lap as Hans Salnave makes way for Calvin Lee just up ahead. But this battle looks like it's a bit of an ebb and flow here for P3.
Yeah, it does. Colander losing a little bit of time over the last couple of laps, but if he's able to catch Salnave, ooh, that's a bit of a mistake for him there, though, coming through the S's. He caught a little bit of the inside curve. Salnave gonna get out of the way for him there, so not gonna cost him a whole lot of time going in, but barely catching it is both Salnave and Colander. That is, I believe, another lapped car behind.
Yeah, it's Horvath, who's currently running in P9, and it looks like that was a pass for position between himself and Hans Salnave. Horvath, of course, recovering from damage sustained on lap 1, and he's got a tough job ahead of him to try and capitalize on his great pace in qualifying. But we turn our attention back to Colander and Nick Horvath here. They are separated by a lap, so Colander has every right to stay ahead at this point, but we'll see what kind of pace Horvath can extract from that machine.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see Horvath definitely having some pace around the track. His fastest lap at a 46.4, and that is compared to Colander's best of a 46.8. So Horvath definitely able to do it. It's, there you see Michael Broomhead again setting the fastest lap of the race with a 46.228, just laying down that marker. He has pulled out that gap to Tyler Gore to over 6 seconds.
Yeah, it's approaching 7 seconds even. It's been a great drive from Michael Broomhead so far. See if he can hold on to it. Certainly with that kind of gap, he can afford to back off a little bit and just take in the sights of rural Connecticut. Brilliant track, Lime Rock Park, and it was originally planned to be longer than it actually is, but this short 1.5 mile layout is the one that was eventually built, and it's been entertaining crowds since the late 1950s with Broomhead again. Just setting that bar ever higher for the fastest lap, wondering if anyone can match him at this point.
I think it is going to be very, very tricky to do it. And yeah, you mentioning the history around here at Lime Rock. This obviously has played host to many, many famous names. This was also the home track of a certain gentleman driver who went on to get some pretty good success both in the movies and in Trans Am, that being Paul Newman, that this was the track where he learned how to drive in, as he was wont to say. We ride on board right now with Nick Horvath, I believe.
We're looking at Nicholas Colander here, chasing down Calvin Lee still. And in terms of their previous laps, well, Colander took a 10th, less than a 10th out of Lee that time around, as looks like Colander's actually got alongside him there, Nick Horvath, and lets him go into turn one. Horvath now showing his pace and now just trying to make up as much time as he possibly can. Next car for position for Nick Horvath is Andrew Hardman, who is a fair way ahead. Unless there's an incident ahead, I don't think that position's going to be contested.
No, I don't think it is. I will tell you, though, that Andrew is closing down on the guy ahead of him. That is Phil Horwitz. That gap has been coming down. Horwitz, in turn, also been closing down on Gene Hawks, getting that gap under a second there for a little bit. So Hardman may be able to move his way forward. We follow here the yellow machine of Phil Horwitz. That's Hawks right ahead. And then you can see, I believe that's our leader, Michael Broomhead, just behind the frame.
Yeah, just behind, and it's looking like this is going to turn into a 3-car battle soon with the way these guys are catching each other up. Love watching onboards here at Lime Rock Park. It's such a simple track, but so complex at the same time. You have to really be confident in your car's handling abilities through turn one. And in something like the Formula V, you don't even brake in the first sector of Lime Rock Park. You do have to stamp on the stop pedal a little bit here, as, oh no, that's a problem there for Calvin Lee. Maybe got a little bit too hard on the stop pedal there.
Yeah, found himself pointing the wrong way up the hill at the uphill. Oh, no, even worse for Andrew Hardman. Let's watch what happens here to Calvin Lee, though, before we go back to Hardman's incident. So this is Lee, just comes in. Oh, he missed it and clipped those big, big curbs that we talked about there. But this is the problem with Andrew Hardman. Talk us through this, Reese.
Right, so Hardman obviously had a few things happening ahead of him and wasn't too sure whether he could get by Hans Salnave into the chicane, and maybe they both left it a bit late to sort it out there. It was straight up contact between a lapped car and a lapping car. So Andrew Hardman with a big setback there. He still remains in 7th place, but that's time lost that he'll certainly not appreciate. And looks to me like Gene Hawks is having a bit of trouble getting into the pit lane after his spin at the very same spot just earlier. So a lot of drivers having trouble with that chicane here today, DJ.
Yeah, it's a tricky pit entry. We've seen a lot of drivers get caught out by it in multiple series. But Michael Broomhead here, your leader, as we tick down under 12 minutes to go around Lime Rock. He is coming up behind Gene Hawks right there in the, excuse me, that's Hans Salnave in the number 5. He's going to put Hans 2 laps down here. Goes around there. I think Hans is trying to give him a little bit of space as he goes on through, and there he is through the S's.
All right, there we go. Broomhead free of that tiny little issue for now. Seems that Broomhead's gotten very lucky in this race so far. The traffic has been polite and accommodating with him, and he's not made any mistakes of his own. So at this stage, it's looking like a pretty easy cruise to victory for what was second place in the championship. Now will undoubtedly be back into the lead coming into the final round.
Yeah, indeed it will. Andrew Hardman trying to do his best to climb his way back up through the field. You can see there on the timing and scoring, he is up to 7th, the last driver on the lead lap right now. He does have Phil Horwitz ahead of him about 3.3 seconds up the road. There you see a little bit of a lockup for Hardman as he makes his way up the hill. So if he can get by Horwitz, I think that'll be good for him. But Horwitz is about 10 seconds back of Calvin Lee. I think that may be a bridge too far for the number 11 here today.
Yeah, not likely that he'll make up that gap under normal circumstances. He'll have to rely on mistakes and crashes from the drivers ahead of him, and there's not much time left for that to happen. Coming up on 10 minutes to go now. Here is Phil Horwitz, and seeing that lap time comparison, you see Andrew Hardman certainly has the pace to try and get past Phil here. But will he be successful? This track is it's pretty hard to pass on, especially in higher downforce open wheelers. There's an awful lot of sweeping corners that you can get a lot of aero disturbance through, and while there is a braking zone at the chicane, it is very difficult to fit 2 cars into there. You basically have to sort yourselves out single file before you even enter the corner. It's so narrow, and those sausage curbs on the inside will absolutely destroy your suspension, as we saw for a couple of cars earlier. But Hardman keeping it nice and consistent here, and his last lap, a 46.2. Phil Horwitz, meanwhile, a 47.5. So this is looking pretty rapid here from Andrew.
Yeah, it really is, and it's becoming a question of what if for this number 11 driver, if he hadn't been involved in that early race incident, if he would have been able to keep his nose up there forward. But closing in on Phil Horwitz in front now as they make their way down the downhill. He's got a good run there. You can see as the speed picks up. Definitely some more speed on that number 11 behind. I think he may have a look going down into Big Bend. Indeed, he's going to send it down to the inside. Just a little bit braver on the brakes, and that's going to move Hardman up into P6.
Excellent move there from Andrew Hardman. It's pretty simple stuff going into turn 1 at Big Bend. If you're on the inside, then you've pretty much got it sorted. But that's I don't think that's giving full credit to the skill required to pull a move off, especially in a car like this. Hardman, you can see he's already leaving Horwitz behind there with that pace advantage that he's got now that he's in clear air. That'll help him in his pursuit of Calvin Lee, but 12 seconds between himself and Calvin Lee, now down to about 11 with only under 8 minutes to go. That's going to be very difficult to make up.
Yeah, it is. And looking at those lap times, does look like Andrew's been able to go about 0.5 of a second a lap faster, but I don't think it's going to be quite enough to pull into the back of Calvin Lee by the time this race finishes. But we'll have to sit here and see if we can do the math and maybe get that all figured out as we continue to work their way around here. Hardman on that recovery drive, as we said.
Yeah, absolutely, and looks like the battles around the track have calmed down a bit here in the final lull before we get a bit of action before the finish. James Doherty chasing down Nicholas Colander here, set a 46.8 on his last lap, 46.5 is his fastest, but Colander still a little bit faster than him. That said, he is encountering a bit of traffic here in the form of Gene Hawkes, which might help James out.
It might indeed, if he's lucky. Little bit of a little back and forth there as they work their way through the downhill. We ride on board right now.
Down into turn 1, still ahead of him is Gene Hawkes, so James is going to have to deal with the slight aero disturbance through sector 1, and oh dear, off the circuit goes Gene Hawkes, lets him go. So that's both of them clear now. They can continue to engage in that fight. And Nicholas Colander went a bit tight into the final turn, making his way past the driver of Gene Hawkes. So maybe a little bit of momentum lost on the front straight, but he's certainly keeping the gap consistent here.
Yeah, he's been able to do a good job of keeping Doherty behind. Doherty just seeing if there's anything to be had, but it feels like Collander's got this in the bag if he wants it. Not pushing too hard as they continue to make their way around here. As you said, with all of these sweeping turns around here, it puts a lot of stress into those outside tires, so it can be tricky. But here comes Hardman. That must have been a mistake from Calvin Lee, because that is Andrew Hardman all over the back of the number 11.
Yeah, I just went back and checked, and Calvin Lee overshot the chicane and went across the grass, picked up a slowdown for that, as well as a big loss of momentum. So that's given a chance here to Andrew Hardman. Let's see how they go at the chicane. It's a bit of a better run for Hardman out of the S as he moves to the inside for a move on Calvin Lee. And, well, Calvin has no choice but to let him go there. There was no way they were both going in there side by side.
No, that is very much a I'm coming through whether you like it or not kind of move there from Andrew Hardman, and I'm all for it. So that'll move him up into 5th position. A relatively good job to mitigate the disaster that befell him at the beginning of the race. But the championship swing goes back to this man, the 00 Britannia iSports driver. That is Michael Broomhead as he pilots his way around through Big Bend once again.
Indeed, there's a lot of alliterative names around Lime Rock Park. Broomhead, nice and smooth. It's always a pleasure to watch this guy drive around, showing why he led the championship for such a long stretch in this season of Flying Husky Racing. With 4 minutes to go, I would say that's 5, maybe 6 laps towards the end, so not much time left now. Broomhead can just cruise home. He leads by 23 seconds, just about 22 to be exact, over Tyler Gore. That's how far back Tyler is, and I do have to say it's been a good drive from Tyler Gore as well. He matched Broomhead early on, and he's held on to 2nd place wonderfully. He might start coming under a bit of pressure from Colander, though, so don't look away from the battle for 2nd just yet.
No, not at all. This battle between 2nd, 3rd, and 4th has stayed pretty consistently close through the majority of the race. Looked like there that Gore lost a little bit of time down into the braking zone for Big Bend as they went around. The gap now dropping down to about 1.7 seconds, 1.8 seconds. So Gore definitely has to stay on his toes here. This race not yet done, even though there's about 3 minutes left on the clock. Indeed.
They all pretty much nail the chicane, bypassing the sweeping uphill bend. That's one of the newer additions to Lime Rock Park. Of course, the chicane in its original form had been around since the late 1980s, I gather, but in the late 2000s, Lime Rock was completely resurfaced, and that new chicane was installed at the uphill, which I think is just as frustrating to drive through as the old one for many drivers. It's a bit of an interruption to the flow of the track, but it does improve safety in the real world and provides a bit of an extra challenge for the drivers to navigate. So what can you do? Meanwhile, this battle continuing for 2nd. In terms of lap times, it's looking to me like these guys are all pretty equal, except for James Doherty. He took 4/10 out of both Nicholas Colander and Tyler Gore on the last lap. Doesn't look like he's made much of an inroads on this lap, though.
No, that may have just been a lap where Doherty was able to get the car to hook up just the way he wanted to. We'll see as they cross the line over here, a 46.9 and a 46.9 for Gore and Colander, and a 46.9 for James Doherty completing the set.
Oh, there we go. Doherty off at Big Bend. Just went a little bit too hard into the right-hander, and off he went. So that is any hint of 2nd place now gone for James Doherty. Still up 3 positions from where he started, though, so I think he can be reasonably happy with this result. So now the battle for 2nd truly between Gore and Colander.
And Colander's been able to close down a little bit more here on this lap. He's got the gap down to under 1.5 seconds, closing down to about 1.3 on the straight here. Now, he'll need to be a little bit closer to take full advantage. I think we've got 1, maybe maybe 3 more laps here in at Lime Rock, so he continues to close in. Gap now at about a second. Collander's got the full push on.
Yeah, absolutely he has. That's a great turn of pace there from Nicholas. Starting to match his current fastest lap. Let's see what he can do in the little pittance of time remaining. It's looking to me like Michael Broomhead will have started his final lap now, potentially. Perhaps 2 laps to go. A little bit of lap traffic for him in the form of Calvin Lee. It's a big shame for Calvin. He certainly had potential for a great result here, but he's not going to let Colander go as easily as he did James Doherty. He just clips it, and the wing is now damaged for Calvin.
Oi, 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 and Broomhead here going to have to just try to get by quickly. Let's keep an eye on that clock. 10 seconds. I think he's going to have white flag here.
3, 2,
it's
he just crossed in time.
Yeah, there's Barney with the white flag, so that means 1 lap to go there for your leader. For Nicholas Colander, he's got the gap down to about 4.5 tenths of a second. So let's see if he can make one final move here coming down into Big Bend. You see him run a little bit wider there going through the West Bend. Does Colander have anything left in that 973?
They'll be getting the white flag here too. There is a hint of draft here for Nicholas Colander. Starting to catch up on Tyler Gore, hard on the brakes into Big Bend. And look at how much ground he makes up on the entry. Gore, though, gaining just ever so slightly on exit. Big wide turn in there from Nicholas Colander, trying to get as much speed as he possibly can. Is this going to be a move coming into the chicane? As the win for Michael Broomhead there.
Exactly, Broomhead able to cross the line and win in dominant fashion here at Lime Rock, re-solidifying his championship position. We jump back to that battle for P2 between Colander and Gore. Looks like Colander has fallen back a little bit, I think, unless Colander gets a miracle here. This second place is Tyler Gore's to keep, and indeed they chase down towards the line. That is going to be Tyler Gore and Nicholas Colander to round out your podium positions here. James Doherty looks like he is going to be able to cross over in 4th, with Andrew Hardman on a great recovery drive to come back home in 5th place. Calvin Lee, the last driver here to cross over on the lead lap. And that is going to finish the race here at Lime Rock. Another good one for the Flying Huskies. But don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break. But after we come back, we will have the unofficial race results followed by podium interviews here on GSRC. Welcome back to Lime Rock Park, where the Flying Huskies just finished their penultimate round of their season, with Michael Broomhead taking the victory here today and retaking that championship lead. Behind him on the podium was Tyler Gore and Nicholas Colander, the two of them in a pretty fierce battle through the majority of the race. James Doherty having a little bit of a spin there late in the race that cost him a chance at that battle as well. And Andrew Hardman coming back to fight on well from an early mistake and bumping his way into fifth.
Calvin Lee would come across the line in 6th place, the last car to finish on the lead lap. Then we had Phil Horwitz come home in 7th. Nick Horvath, unfortunately, not able to capitalise on that 2nd place start, a lap down as well. Gene Hawkes, 4 laps down with damage, and Hans Salnave, 15 laps down. It was an absolutely torrid race for Hans Salnave, but I would say it's the opposite here for our race winner, DJ. You stood by with him.
Well, Michael, it's good to see you back on the top step of the podium. Looks like you got your start problem solved, and I have no other word for this other than dominant.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it was helped a little bit by that major netcode between Horvath and Hardman. I'm looking at it right now, and it's a few feet away. So I don't know what happened there, but it was unfortunate for either of them because they both had the pace for me today. Unfortunately, they got caught up. So, Gore was chasing me down, but thankfully, I just kept it smooth and brought it to the end.
Well, near the end of it, I mean, obviously coming up on some lap traffic, was it just all about keeping it cool and steady, or was there any concern from behind, or what was going through your head with about the last 10 minutes to go?
Yeah, I'm never happy with people behind me, obviously, like getting closer. So I'm always looking. It doesn't matter how far away it is. One mistake and it can all disappear. So yeah, just keep it smooth, keep it clean. Just watch the lap traffic. It's kind of hard to pass here, right? So, you kind of have to be patient and just take the opportunity when you get it.
Well, I've got to ask about the championship now at this point as we head into the finale now at Watkins Glen. You've got the upper hand here coming on Andrew Hardman. What's going through your mind coming into it?
You know what, DJ? It's going to be close. Andrew is consistent and fast. He's you can never count him out, right? Like he was saying, this track isn't as suited to him. So we have our good tracks and our bad tracks, and I think Watkins Glen we're going to get very much a similar thing to Mosport, and he dominated there. So you never know. I'll try my best, and obviously it comes down to the last race, so we're just going to try to win.
Well, we'll be watching it no matter what, Michael. Anybody you want to thank for this victory here today?
Of course, Britannia boys. Always fun to race with everybody. Flying Husky and the sponsors, Mountain Range Marketing, lisaslight.com, and of course my family and Mimi as well. And you guys, you do such a great job.
Thank you so much, Michael. That was your winner here tonight, Michael Broomhead. And now, Reese, I believe you've caught up with our second place finisher, Tyler Gore.
Welcome back to the commentary box, Tyler, and congratulations on another podium here. This was a pretty good round for you. Started in 4th, took advantage of incidents ahead, and held on very nicely.
My whole plan wasn't to...
But more towards the end, you had quite the challenge coming from Nicholas Colander. What was going through your head as you saw that gap gradually closing on the relative?
You know what? I wasn't paying attention to it, and then I saw him in my mirrors, and it kind of caught me off guard a little bit, so I had to pick up the pace a little bit. Honestly, I was just kind of trying to coast a little bit. I knew I had built a gap, and then I took a sausage curb there at the chicane, and that kind of woke me up.
Well, speaking of those sausage curbs at the chicane, that's something that really played havoc with quite a few drivers tonight. And obviously in these Formula 3 cars, you do not want to go near those red bumps.
No, you know what? The trick for me was as soon as I knew I was going over it, I was steering neutral, off the brake and the gas, and just let the car do what it's going to do. And it seemed to take it okay. I think you get into trouble when you're trying to correct and adjust, and it just doesn't go well.
Well, either way, that approach has certainly worked out for you. Is there anyone that you'd like to thank for this second place tonight, Tyler?
Absolutely. I got to thank the Flying Husky guys and then the boys over at Britannia iSports. And of course, always, you guys at GSRC, you guys do a fantastic job. So thank you.
And thank you, Tyler Gore, their second place on the road here tonight at Lime Rock Park. Final driver interview. We've talked to him a few times this season, DJ, but Nicholas Colander is back.
Nicholas, welcome back to the podium, and a pretty fun little battle it looked like there at the end with Tyler Gore.
Oh, it's always a blast. What's up, guys? Happy Tuesday to you. Yeah, I love racing with Tyler. I'm happy he joined the league. I met the dude in PRL like months ago. I'm looking at our average lap times now. He had a 47.36. I was a 47.524. So just a blast racing with him. That's what it's all about, guys.
No, I feel that. And so coming around this track, how do you like some of these shorter circuits? Obviously going from Mosport to here, do you prefer the shorter ones like this, or do you prefer rather some of the longer ones?
I'm not a fast driver. I put myself in the consistency bucket. So a shorter track with more laps gives me an advantage. Fast guys at some point are going to make a mistake, and it's usually catastrophic. So I just kind of scoot around and relax, and it's worked out well for me this season.
I would say it has indeed. And now we turn our sights to that last race of the season in Watkins Glen. How do you think that one's going to go?
Oh, I'm going to have a blast. I think I have the most laps on the platform at Watkins Glen. I'm originally a Jersey boy, so Lime Rock and Watkins Glen are two tracks I kind of watched growing up as a kid. So get to live out my dreams as a 36-year-old washed out adult, guys.
I feel that, my friend. I feel that. Anybody you'd like to thank for this podium here today?
Everybody. This was it's just always fun to, have some fellowship with the community. Todd, straight up Mike Broomhead, you guys to, gather around, enjoy what we love, and have some fun, clean battles. You just can't put a price tag on that. So just a shout out to everybody on this one. And of course, my son Axel, hopefully he can watch these YouTubes later on and think his father's actually good at racing.
Well, thank you so much, Nicholas. We appreciate you being here with us tonight. And that is going to wrap up our coverage of the Flying Husky Racing series for tonight. But before we go, we want to thank our sponsors for the event. First off, Norsled. Save a Husky. For more information, contact Todd Curtis through email at todd@flyinghusky.racing. Also, Flying Husky Racing themselves. Find out more about them on the web at flyinghusky.racing. Flying Husky Racing. Track days are the best days. Thanks also to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. An additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen here for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Reese, Joe, and Dougie. You can find out more about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through the social media listed on your screen. Also, please visit our merch store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below, so you should be able to find it there. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Our next race for these Huskies, it is the season finale. It is going to be September 21st at 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time, at Pacific Time, at Watkins Glen. We have other upcoming races listed here on your screen, so check them out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.